Hi guys, so I'm gonna be making the video again because I promised I made it. It was 20 minutes long, and then I go back to edit my video, and the whole time it showed what I was writing, but it was not, there was no audio because of the microphone on my iPad, so I had to adjust. Then I had to do some errands, so but here I am again trying to do this video. So hopefully I see that this is actually recording the microphone, so let's go ahead and get started. We did number 1 and number 2 in class. Just Pythagorean theorem, right? Number 2, it was like you had to find the area of that little triangle and then multiply by 54 and 12. So that's how you did that one if you didn't get it. Number 3, an engineering company was hired to dig an underground tunnel directly from point A to point B, which was a distance of 1.4 miles. So this right here is 1.4 miles. By mistake, however, they tunneled from point A to point C. Then they tunneled from point C to point B. If tunneling costs 120 million per mile, about how much money was wasted? Show how you found your answer. Note, 1 mile is 5,280 feet. So this 158 right here is in feet. That means that this has to be in feet as well. So right here, this is like my A, this is like my B, and this is my C. So I know what C is, I don't know what B is, right? So the first thing that we had to do is convert the miles into feet. So whenever you convert, you have that 1 mile is 5,280 feet. And we're setting up a proportion. So we know that right here, 1.4 miles, right? 1.4 miles. I want to know how much is 1.4 miles in feet. So I'm going to solve for x. So I multiply across and I divide by that number. Whenever I multiply 5,280 by 1.4, I got, let me see real quick. I got 7,392. So that means that this is 7,392. So let me go ahead and erase this. This is 7,392 feet. Okay, and I'm going to try to find what B is. So I know that B is, or the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. My A here was 158 squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, so 7,392 squared. And I'm going to solve for B. So I do 158 squared, and 158 squared is 24,964 plus b squared is equal to, it's going to be a really big number, 54,641,664. So then I subtract 24,964, and what does that give me? That gives me 24,964, 54,616,700 b squared, and then I take the square root of that, and I get that B is equal to 7,000. Whoops. Let me lock that in real quick. 7,390.31. That is what B is. So that is this. Okay. So then I want to know how much money was wasted. So I know that from A to C, it was 7,390.31, plus from A to B was 158. And whenever I add those two together, oh my god, hopefully you guys can't hear the dog barking outside. I get 7,548.31 feet. So that's how much the total from A to C and C to B, right? I want to know how much money was wasted. So remember that the original plan was to go from A to B, but they made the mistake and they went instead from A to C and then from C to B. So that's why I had to add those two together. So let me just double check and make sure that I added that correctly. 7390.31 plus 158. Yeah, okay, I did. Okay, so I want to know how much money was wasted. So I need to set up a second proportion because I know, well, actually, hold on. So I need to convert this into miles, because remember that up here it was supposed to be 1.4 miles, right? So I need to know how many miles over that or under that I went. It's gonna be over it because from A to C and C to B is obviously greater than from A to B, right? So let's go ahead and convert that. So I had that 1 mile is 5,280 feet. And here I have, you always want to, whenever you're setting up your proportion, you want to make sure that you have feet with feet and miles with miles, okay? So the feet is going to go down here. And this is my feet. So then I need to find what this is. I need to find how many miles that is. So then I multiply these two. So I do 7,548.31. Wait, hold on. 5,548.31. And then I divide it by this number. Right here. So divide it by 5280. And I get 1.43 miles. Okay, because I round to the nearest hundredth place. Okay, and then so that's how many miles I went over. Remember that the original was supposed to be 1.4 miles. So if I subtract 1.43 minus 1.4, that means that I went 0.03 miles over that. Right? So now I need to figure out, okay, how much money did I waste? Because it said that it was 120 million per mile. So I need to set up a third proportion. And so I know that for 1 mile, it was 120 mil, right? And here, it was supposed to be 1.4 miles. So 1.4 miles, that was the ideal distance from A to B. And let's see how much that would have costed. So 120 times 1.4. And this gives you that it was 168 mil. Okay. Now we're going to do it for how much we actually got. So we had 1 mile is 120 mil, and we had gotten that it was 1.43 miles over x. So multiply that and you get 171.6 mil. So then you subtract these because you want to know what was the amount that they went over, right? So I do 171.6 minus the 168, and I get 168, 3.6, and this is millions, right? So they went over 3.6 millions. That's how much money they lost, or that's how much money was wasted. Okay, so hopefully that one made sense. All right, moving on to number 4. So I'm gonna erase some of this stuff, or actually, you know what, I'm gonna just do it on the other side. Okay, so did you know that TV sizes are identified by the diagonal length of the screen? Have you ever noticed that all TV screens seem to have similar shapes in terms of their ratios of width to height? The width to height ratio of a screen is called the aspect ratio. A typical TV made prior to 1996 had an aspect ratio of 4:3, while nearly all current day TVs have an aspect ratio of 16:9. If you've ever seen an older TV, you might have noticed that the screen looks more like a square, while today's TVs are noticeably wider than they are tall. So I'm only going to do part A with you guys, and I'm going to let you do part B and C on your own, because this one honestly is a pretty easy question. Alright, so an aspect ratio of 4:3 means that the width of the screen is 1.333 times the height, because 4 divided by 3 is 1.333. So that means that it's going to be 4/3 times the height. That's what the width is going to be, right? So let's go ahead and write that. And this is width, by the way, and this is height. And then TV size, we're going to say that's T. So I hope this reminds you of the Pythagorean theorem, because obviously it makes a triangle right here, right? So this would be like your A, this would be like your A, your B, and your C. So we're trying to find what's the width and the length, right? So it says use this information to determine the length and width. Thing I want to point out here, right here at the top, they're talking about height, and then down here they're talking about length. Whenever you're doing two-dimensional objects, these two are the same thing, okay? So height and length are the same thing. But whenever you're doing three-dimensional stuff, then height and length are two different things. Okay, so let's see if I can move this. I know that W, my width, is gonna be 4/3 times the height. Okay, it's 4/3 bigger than the height. 4/3 times bigger than the height. So that means that the height, if I solve for h here, you guys should know how to solve for variables by now. So if I solve for h, I had to multiply by 3/4 here, multiply by 3/4 here, and these cancel out, and I get that the height is 3/4 times the width. Okay, just wanted to show you guys how to do that, but let me erase this so I don't confuse you guys, and let's rewrite that. So W is still 4/3 times the height. And like I said, this is a Pythagorean theorem, so this would be like W squared plus H squared is equal to T squared. Okay, so they want us to find the length and width of a 15-inch TV. So I know that T is 15, so I do 15 squared. And I know that W is 4/3 H, right? And this is squared plus H squared. So if you notice now, all I have is H. So I'm going to solve for the height first. So 4 squared is 16, 3 squared is 9, H squared plus H squared is equal to 15 squared is 225. And now in order to add these two, to do the common like terms, because H squared and H squared, you can add those two together, but you have to make it a fraction, and it needs to have a common denominator. So I need to multiply this by 9 in the top and the bottom. So this is really 16/9 H squared plus 9 H squared over 9 is equal to 225. 16 plus 9 would be 25. H squared over 9 is equal to 225. And all we're doing now is solving for H. So to get rid of a fraction, you multiply it by the denominator on both sides. And you have 25 H squared is equal to 225 times 9. Let's see. 2025. And then I divide by 25. And I get that H squared. Let me delete some of this stuff down here. Whoops. Oh my god, why is it not letting me delete? Bro. Never mind. I'll just write over it. Oh my god. Okay, 2025 divided by 25 is 81. And then you take the square root of that, so I get that H is equal to 9. So the height is 9 inches. Okay, now I have to do the width. So I do the same thing, but now I'm gonna substitute the h. So I'm using the same concept up here, right here. I had plugged in w, now I'm plugging in h. So I have I have w squared plus 3 over 4 w squared is equal to, again, 15 squared. So I have w squared, and then 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. So as you notice, now all I have is w, which is what I want to solve for, right? So then same thing, put this over 1, and then we multiply it by the common denominator. So 16 times w is just 16w squared over 16 plus 9w squared over 16 equal to 225. And then 16 plus 9 is 25. W squared over 16 equal to 225, and solve for w. So you multiply by 16 on both sides to get rid of that fraction. And if I'm talking too fast, it's because I don't want to make this video more than 20 minutes, guys. I'm sorry. Just rewind it. Okay, so then I get 3600. Wait, hold on, let me make sure I did that right. 225 times 16. Oh yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. And then I divide by 25 on both sides, and I get w squared is equal to 144. What is that? Oh, okay. Take the square root of both sides, so I get that w is equal to 12 inches. Okay. So that was only for the 15-inch. They're also asking you for the 42-inch, but I'm gonna let you do that one on your own. So I want you to do that one. I want you to do B, and I want you to do C on your own. And I'm gonna go ahead and do number 5 with you guys. So let's see. Okay. Oh my god, hopefully you guys cannot hear my dog barking. She's so loud. Okay. Shown above is an interesting mathematical spiral that is constructed with right triangles. The lengths of the right triangle at the bottom of the spiral both have a length of 1 unit. The length of the outside leg of each triangle in the spiral is always 1 unit. Based on the pattern you observe, draw the 4th and 5th triangles in the spiral. So I noticed that this is my A, this is my B, this is my C, right? Same thing here. This would be my A here, my B, and then my C, my A, my B, my C. So if I were to draw it one more time, I would have my B here. This would be my B, and just pretend that's straight. This would be my A, and then like this would be my C, right? So that would be my 4th one. And actually, you know what? Let me fix that. Let's make that a little bit better. A little bit more straight, something like that. All right, so that's the 4th one. I want you guys to do the 5th one. Part B says find the lengths of the hypotenuse for all 5 triangles, but do not simplify any square roots. So I'm only going to do the first one with you guys. So if I try to find C for this, we're going to say this triangle number 1. This is 2, this is 3, this is 4. So if I'm trying to find the hypotenuse or my C for triangle 1, I'm going to do A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. So that is 1 squared plus 1 squared is equal to C squared. 1 plus 1 is equal to C squared, and 1 plus 1 is 2. And then you take the square root of that, so you get that C is equal to radical 2. So my C here is radical 2. Okay, so you would do the same thing for triangle 2, triangle 3, and triangle 4 and 5. Do you notice a pattern in the lengths of the hypotenuse? So whenever you find the hypotenuse for all of these, you're going to notice something, and I want you to answer this question. Use the pattern you observe in the lengths of the hypotenuse to make a conjecture. Remember that a conjecture is a prediction that something can be true or false, and then you have to prove why it's true or false. Okay, so make a conjecture about what the length of the hypotenuse for the 10th triangle in the spiral would be. So what do you think? You don't have to prove it, but you don't have to give me like a formal proof, but I want you to go into detail about, like, based on the pattern that you saw, what's gonna be the hypotenuse of the 10th triangle. Okay, so all right, I think this video is gonna be 20 minutes. I'm so sorry I made this on Sunday. I know I told you guys I was gonna try to make it on Friday, but Friday grades were due, and then yesterday I had to take my dog to the vet. It was like a really bad emergency, so, and then today I had some errands to run, so, but anyway, it's done. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day.